For the Bible to be so direct, right? I've always stood on this principle. Not to say that I believe in cheating, not to say I believe in polygamy relationships, not to say all that. I'm saying this just for the sake of conversation. It never said one wife.
Okay, this is funny. People use this same argument when you're talking about if Jesus is God. They say there's nowhere in scripture where Jesus said, I am God, worship me. But Jesus did say, before Abraham was, I am. And the Hebrew people understood that, and they wanted to stone the man to death. And we see the same thing in scripture concerning marriage. Jesus appeals to Genesis when he could have appealed to whose life? David or Solomon. He didn't appeal to David or Solomon's life. He appealed to Genesis and said, this is why a man leave his father's house and cleaves to his wife, and the two become one flesh. Not 3, not 4, not 5, not 10, but cling to his wife. That one woman and the two become one flesh. And we also see instructions for the leader of the church to be a husband of one wife. The church. And you know what? You know who is the bride of Christ? The church. And who did Jesus lay down his life for? The church. And so, hey, you have to lay down your life for your wife as well. The same commandment. It's just this oneness that God is trying to get us to commit to. So as a husband, you have to love your wife, that one wife you have. We see that, and we go to Matthew 19. We see how Jesus establishes what it said in Genesis. When a man leaves his father's household, the two become one flesh. So you have them coming up to Jesus and they're asking Jesus. So Moses wrote in the law that we can divorce our wife for any and every reason. And Jesus like, oh my goodness, I got to deal with y'all again. Have you not read in the beginning? God made them male and female. And he said, this is the reason why a man should leave his house and the two should become one flesh. And I'm quoting here. I'm not saying I'm saying a verse verbatim. It's on the screen. But as you see, Jesus establishes what happened in Genesis, even though the law of Moses said that you can divorce your wife for any and every reason. That law was given because your heart was hard. Just because God allowed something to happen in scripture doesn't mean, hey, he approves of it at all. And I will link a video to Inspiring Philosophy's video about the law of Moses, like about the law of Moses. So you all can look more into that. It's extremely interesting video. I think it's a 2-part video as well. So I think you guys need to take a look into that. It's real good. So we see that. So we have to remember, even though scripture has activities going on, doesn't mean God approves of those activities. And someone would say, oh, well, why didn't God just call it sin? He let it happen the same way he let them divorce their wives for any and every reason, even though that's not his ideal thing. That's not his vision for marriage at all, but he allowed it. Now, do I know why? I don't know. I do not know. But what I do know is just because things happen in scripture doesn't mean God is saying, hey, this is good, this is right, you should do it. But anytime something is prescribing something, saying, hey, this is good, all places, all time, for all people, like honoring your father and your mother, not being a murderer, things, not stealing, things of that nature. So we have to follow that. So we have to be sure that we are not trying to live our lives like David or live our lives like Solomon. Like, I don't look up to Solomon. I don't look up to David. They were great men of God. Good. Kudos. But I look up to Jesus Christ, the Messiah, the Redeemer, the one who saves our souls. That's who we should look to. That is our standard. David and Solomon is not my standard at all. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. They are not. My standard is Jesus. And if I'm living to that standard, I'm fine. I don't want to be living to the standard of David or the standard of Solomon or the standard of Abraham or the standard of Paul or Peter. I don't want to do that. I want to live the standard of Christ. So he called us and said, hey, love your wives as Christ loved the church and laid his life down for the church. The church, same way. Husbands, we have to do the same thing as husbands. We have to lay down our lives for our wife, because essentially our wife is the church. And if our wife is the church, there's no way we can compare that to Jesus, who laid his life down for the church, not multiple churches, but one church. So we have to lay our life down for one wife.